Yeah.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. 2021 is a huge year for Clay Helton at USC. He is just 45 and 23 during his time with the program, and that does include a 5-1 mark last year. But that lone loss came in the Pac-12 Championship game. And he may need to get the Trojans back to the Pac-12 Championship game and win it this time if he wants to keep his job. So again, guys, welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, here to analyze and predict USC's schedule and record for this 2021 college football season. As always, make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and also make sure to check out everything down in that description below, including those brand new expert picks over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. All of our college football and NFL spread picks can be found on our website for one of the lowest prices in the country. So make sure to go check that out and sign up today before the season starts, because I promise you're not going to want to miss out on anything we have for you over there. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Trojans, guys. They are, once again, a heavy favorite in the Pac-12 South. What to me is a wide open Pac-12 South. So many teams could win that division. USC, Arizona State, Utah. You see up-and-comers like Colorado and UCLA. It's going to be a very competitive division. And whoever wins that division will more than likely have the honor of facing off against Oregon in that Pac-12 championship game. USC has consistently been mediocre under Clay Helton, but they're ready to take that next step. And this maybe could be the year that they do it. Because you look at this team, guys. First off, they have 41 players back with at least one start under their belt. So this is a very experienced USC team. 41 players back with at least one start under their belt. And obviously their strength is their offense, as it for a while has been. 7 starters are back, and it all starts with Kedon Slovis, the star quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the entire country. Threw for over 1,900 yards and 17 touchdowns last year. Completed 67% of his passes last year. He is thriving in Graham Harrell's air raid offense out in LA. They averaged 319.3 passing yards per game. That was first in the Pac-12. That was 11th nationally, and he is not short of any pass catchers, guys. It's a very deep wide receiver core. You can point to the losses of Amon-Ra St. Brown. You can point to the loss of Tyler Vaughn, but you can also look at what they have coming back, including Drake London, had 502 yards. Bru McCoy, the 5-star recruit that finally settled on a place to play football. And then they added K.D. Nixon, the transfer wide receiver from Colorado. Slovis is loaded, not to mention that he has 2 very capable running backs in his backfield, and Vavae Malepeai and the transfer from Texas, Keaontay Ingram, who will actually be a very big threat in the passing game as well. This offense has the chance and the potential to be better than they were in 2020. Same can be said for the defense. Todd Orlando came in as defensive coordinator last year and drastically changed this USC defense. They ranked in the top 4 in the Pac-12 in every statistical category: scoring, rushing, passing, and total defense. At least in the top 4 in the conference in all of those categories. They also had 16 takeaways in 2020. 6 games, 16 takeaways. Yes, they do lose a couple key pieces, namely their star safety, Talanoa Hufanga, who was a Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Year. But they do have Drake Jackson back at linebacker. They have Isaiah Pola-Mao back in that secondary. This is a strong USC defense, guys, that should be even better in year 2 under Todd Orlando. So we take a look at their schedule. Again, this is a team that has their eyes set on winning the Pac-12. Anything short of making the Pac-12 championship and maybe even winning it is going to be viewed as a disappointment, and Clay Helton might be out on the streets looking for a new job. When you take a look at their schedule, they open up against San Jose State. And we are not marking this off as a quick and easy win, because San Jose State, the Spartans, will challenge USC. This is the reigning Mountain West Conference champion right here. A team that returns 9 starters back on offense, including their quarterback in Nick Starkel, from a unit that ranked 19th nationally in passing yards per game. They return everybody on defense from a unit that ranked 26th nationally in total defense. This is a good San Jose State team, guys, and I never thought I'd hear myself say that San Jose State had a good football program, but they do. They're going to come into the Coliseum and they're going to give USC everything they have. Don't be surprised if the game is close at halftime. but USC is the better team from top to bottom. They will pull away. They will beat San Jose State. They then get their early Pac-12 conference matchup against Stanford. Always usually play the Cardinal early in the year. And you look at the game against Stanford. This is a team that won their final 4 games last year. They disappointed early, but won their final 4 games. And now they have a lot of potential going into 2021, but whether or not they can utilize that potential, translate it into wins, that remains to be seen. 8 starters back on defense. A defense that I think will be very strong in the back 7, in the linebacking core, and in the secondary. This is a team that only allowed 216.7 passing yards per game, which was 44th nationally. Not a bad mark going up against a very potent passing attack from USC. But one area where Stanford did struggle was stopping the run. They, first off, struggled to stop the run. And second off, I also don't feel that Stanford has the offensive capability to keep up with USC. This could be a game where you see Keaontay Ingram, Vavae Malepeai have a good game on the ground. Kedon Slovis maybe take a little bit of a day off. This is also a game where I think USC's defense flexes their muscles a little bit. Jack West is going to be only playing in his second game with the Cardinal. I know he had a little bit of experience back in 2020, but not as much as the Cardinal would have liked. I don't have as much faith in Stanford's offense. USC wins this game. They're 2-0. They then travel to Pullman to take on Washington State. They beat the Cougars 38-13 last year. And I'm going to make this quick and easy for you. They won 38-13 last year, and Washington State had one of the worst secondaries in the nation, allowing 307 passing yards per game. That was 124th in the country last year. I don't think Washington State improves that drastically on defense. They will improve from last year in year 2 under Nick Rolovich, but not enough in the defensive side of the ball to beat USC, despite the game being in Pullman. 307 passing yards per game. USC was averaging nearly 320 per game. Slovis in this passing attack had a field day against the Cougars, and last year they won by 25. Could see it being very similar again now in 2021. 3-0. They return home to take on Oregon State. Now, if you've watched our Oregon State prediction video, you heard us say that we don't think that Oregon State is going to be as bad as their record shows. We are not predicting them to have a great year, but we believe they have better talent. They just have an absolutely brutal schedule. That's the problem. They've got some talent on offense. They've got a little bit of talent on defense, but they do lose their biggest offensive playmaker in Jamar Jefferson, their running back. When you look at the defense, the front 7 is very strong. I do see them maybe challenging USC's offensive line. If you're looking for any area that needs most improvement for USC, it's probably going to be on their offensive line. So Oregon State could challenge that a little bit, but they also allowed 217.6 rushing yards per game. That's not going to bode well with this dual threat running back situation we have at USC with Malepeai and Ingram. Again, Oregon State I think is going to be better than what their record shows. One of their wins, though, is not going to come against USC. This isn't going to be one of those games where I think they look better, look worse than they really are. USC should run away with this game at the Coliseum. They then travel to Colorado. Now, this is to me is a major trap game, guys. Major trap game for USC when they travel to Boulder. It should be noted that USC has never lost to Colorado. They're 14-0 all time against the Buffaloes. The last time they were here, though, they barely escaped, only defeating Colorado 35-31. And you look at the Buffaloes this year, guys. This was a team that nearly won the Pac-12 South last year. Take everything with a grain of salt, of course, due to COVID, but nearly won the Pac-12 South in Carl Durrell's first year. They now have a dual-threat quarterback in Brendan Lewis taking over for Sam Neuer, who transferred to Oregon State. And they have a great rushing attack with Jarrett Broussard and Alex Fontenot. This is a team that's going to rely heavily on the run, and they're going to rely heavily on their linebacking core to get the job done on defense, led by Nate Landman. USC allowed 153.3 rushing yards per game. That's not a great number. It's not bad, but it's not great. If they struggle against the run, and they're still struggling against the run, Colorado at home is going to put up some points. They're going to put up some solid numbers. But right now, I still believe that USC's offense is just a little too much for the Buffaloes to handle, especially for that Colorado secondary. And I think, per usual, as you would expect from this USC team, they're going to win this game through the air. They're going to find a way to win this game through the air. They get a late stop defensively and escape Colorado again. 3 of the last 5 games against Colorado for USC have been decided by 1 possession. 3 of the last 5 games against Colorado have been decided by 1 possession. Would not surprise me if you see another 1-possession game here, but USC still gets the win. They're 15-0 all time against Colorado. They then go back home to take on Utah right before their bye week. They're 5-0, more than likely a top 15 team. Very well could be a top 10 team at this point, and they take on Utah, a team that's absolutely a legitimate Pac-12 South title contender, but a team that's not getting talked about nearly enough. USC beat the Utes 33-17 last year, beat them by 16 points, kind of a blowout. I don't think you're going to see as big of a blowout this time around. I don't expect this game to be decided by 16 points. I think 10 at the max, but it's going to be another win for USC. And I will say that if this game was in Salt Lake City, I might have to rethink things. I think home field advantage plays a huge role in this one for USC because Utah's a good team, guys. 18 starters back. They added Charlie Brewer in at quarterback from Baylor. Going to have one of the better defenses in the country yet again. If they find that offensive consistency, and they have the talent there, they're a team that very well could win this division. And that's going to be so crucial here. The top three teams, USC, Arizona State, and Utah, how they all fare against one another will determine who wins the division. And it's just huge for USC to get this win right here so they own that tiebreaker over the Utes. And we do believe they get that. They're 6-0 going into their bye week. So 6-0, guys. Atop of the South standings right now. They're on top of the standings. They are maybe a top 10 team. Not only is USC looking like the maybe favorite in the Pac-12 at this point, but they're looking like a playoff contender. They're going to get a true playoff boosting resume opportunity, and we're really going to see what they're truly made of when they get off their bye week and travel to South Bend to take on Notre Dame. Big time rivalry game here. It should be noted that Notre Dame has won 3 straight against USC. 3 straight games against the Trojans. USC also has not won in South Bend since 2011. Notre Dame, like USC, has the benefit of coming off a bye coming into this game. So both teams will be very rested. USC, if you've watched the Notre Dame predictions, is going to be in a better position than Notre Dame. Notre Dame's going to have already faced Wisconsin, Cincinnati, a road game at Virginia Tech. Their first part of the schedule is very, very difficult for them, which is why this bye week comes at the perfect time. And I believe Brian Kelly has his team ready to go. And in South Bend, a potential primetime game in South Bend, Notre Dame defeats USC for the 4th straight year. And they're going to win it behind the strength of their defense. Marcus Freeman in as defensive coordinator. This Notre Dame secondary has the opportunity to be one of the better in the country. And I believe they shut down this passing attack just enough. Last year, Notre Dame had a fantastic rushing defense. I don't think USC gets much on the ground in this game. They don't want to anyways. They want to throw the ball. Notre Dame's defense does just enough. Marcus Freeman with a week of prep does just enough. And the Fighting Irish will get back on track with a huge win over USC. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind here is this is not a conference loss for the Trojans. So their Pac-12 title hopes are still intact. Their playoff hopes take a blow, but if USC wins out, and that could include a Pac-12 championship win, they're not out of the playoff race yet. They fall to Notre Dame. They come back, they play Arizona, they annihilate Arizona. Now, I know what you're thinking. They only beat Arizona 34-30 last year. How can you say they annihilate them now in 2021? A difference a year makes, right? Kevin Sumlin is gone. Arizona brings in Jed Fish. They have major quarterback questions across the board. Their defense was one of the worst in the nation last year. Last year, it was in Tucson. Now it's in LA. All the factors point to USC. They got caught sleeping in that game last year against Arizona. They won't now. I don't think they have a Notre Dame hangover, but you have to be mindful here. They are going to come off a loss against Notre Dame, and the very next week they play Arizona State, which could determine the division. If Arizona was a little bit better, I'd say major trap game. But we're not expecting much from the Wildcats this year if USC rolls big. They come in November to take on Arizona State. As we just mentioned, the game that very well could determine the Pac-12 South. Now, we know nothing at this moment about Arizona State's recruiting violations. We know they committed them. We don't know what sanctions and what the repercussions will be for that. If that comes out before the season begins, it could very well alter our predictions for the Sun Devils as a whole. But you look at this game right now, pretending that nothing's going to happen, as if nothing's going to happen, that's how we're going to predict this game. Last year, USC beat Arizona State 28-27, but they shouldn't have. Arizona State led by 13 points with under 3 minutes left, and the Trojans got a miraculous comeback to beat the Sun Devils in that first game of the year. Well, if you don't think Arizona State has remembered that game and is frustrated with that game, you're wrong. They certainly had this game marked on their calendar for so many different reasons. They now are led again by one of the best quarterbacks in the conference in Jaden Daniels. They have a rushing attack that averaged 264.2 rushing yards per game, and their defense, many believe, could be one of the best in Arizona State football history, and their secondary, once again, leading the way with that. You have a strong secondary going up against an air raid offense. Which one's going to give? I'm going to go with the team that has home field advantage, And I do believe defense wins championships. And I believe Arizona State's defense steps up big enough to win this game at home. Perhaps one of the biggest games in their history. They're going to win this game. Certainly one of the most anticipated games of the year within the Pac-12. Arizona State will defeat USC at home. Home field advantage playing a huge role in that. They then go on the road to take on California. I'm going to predict a loss here. I believe that USC is a bit hungover after this loss to Arizona State because if they lose that game, it's their second loss. Playoff hopes done. Now, yes, they have on the tiebreaker over Utah, but if Arizona State does as well as many are projecting, the Sun Devils will then be in the driver's seat of the Pac-12 South, and they know they're going to need a little bit of help to win the division. And I think USC, a little bit down on their luck, falls to their in-state rival in California. Yes, the Golden Bears have only defeated USC once since 2004. That came back in 2018. But they finally have a solid offense under Justin Wilcox. They have the best quarterback in the Pac-12, one of the best quarterbacks in the Pac-12. They have the most experienced quarterback in the Pac-12 in Chase Garbers, 23 starts to his name. And their defense is always extremely strong. As Justin Wilcox is a defensive-minded coach, they're going to have a very solid secondary per usual. USC hung over after a tough loss against Arizona State, then going on the road to take on California, who has a very solid team this year, maybe the best one we've seen under Justin Wilcox. The Golden Bears get this win in what I believe is a big-time upset. So USC has now been handed 3 losses in their last 4 games. They round out the year with back-to-back home games against UCLA and BYU, and that's very favorable for them. The UCLA team is quite the anomaly. We don't know what to expect. 19 starters back for them. Chip Kelly needs to get them to a bowl game. Whether they get there or not remains to be seen. USC barely escaped the Bruins. They beat them 43-38 last year, trailed by 12 in the fourth quarter, and then scored a game-winning touchdown with 16 seconds left to win that game and complete an undefeated regular season. The Bruins are now having to come out to the Coliseum. I still have a little doubts in their secondary. They had one of the worst secondaries in the conference, one of the worst in the nation. And I believe that, once again, Kedon Slovis and this air raid offense do just enough to win this game. They then stay at home for BYU, senior night, senior day, final game of the year. A BYU team that, to me, lost too much last year. They lost the most offensive production in the country from last year. I don't believe their offense is able to keep up against this USC high-scoring offense. The Trojans should win this game relatively handily against the Cougars. Again, if it was in Provo, if it was earlier, anything like that, maybe we would have to reconsider a little bit. But even then, I still think USC is the better team, and that will certainly show in their final game of the year. They defeat BYU and finish 9-3 in 2021. Now, I know for many that's going to be a major disappointment. That's 2 conference losses. How the rest of the conference fares, how Arizona State fares, how Utah fares remains to be seen. USC can still win the division with 2 conference losses, but they're going to need help. They're going to need help. You can make the case for 10-2, but I don't see any better than that. 10-2, best case scenario for USC. We've got them at 9-3. The million-dollar question now is, will that be enough to keep Clay Helton around for another year, or will the Trojans finally move on? So again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Make sure to check out those expert picks down in the description below. Again, sign up the day before the season starts. I promise you do not want to miss out on that. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.